Hi, I'm Stuart J. Pearlman, and I want to welcome you to Stuart J's Lens, the tales of small business in McKinney. I hope you enjoyed today's tale. It comes straight from small business in McKinney.
I was born in Duluth, Minnesota, the very tip top of northern Minnesota. Lived in Wisconsin, Indiana, Florida, Utah, Connecticut, Colorado, Nebraska, and now Texas. And hopefully that's the end. It's my father's job that moved us around the country. He's known as a fix-it-up guy for local economies. And so we moved wherever they asked him to move and would pay him the most money to kind of fix their economy. And once he fixed it up, he didn't like maintenance. He liked fixing and moving on. So we would fix and move on to the next place.
Was it difficult as a kid moving a lot?
Initially it was, but I think it helped quite a bit. By the time I was in high school, I had moved around so often that it made it much more comfortable to make friends and introduce myself to new people, which I think translated to my job in medicine. It's not hard for me to walk into a new room and meet somebody and be able to carry a conversation. Plus, having lived so many places, I almost always have something in common with somebody. You know, they know somebody that lived there or lived there themselves. College, I went to the University of Utah. Medical school, I went to the University of Connecticut. Residency, I went to the University of Colorado. And then for a short time, I was clinical faculty at University of Nebraska. So anybody who's doing well in a particular sport, I can kind of choose who I'm going to root for that year.
What made you go the military route? You were studying medicine,
right?
And one day you said, "You know what? Uncle Sam needs me." What's the story?
A combination. So two things. One is they offer something called the Health Professions Student Scholarship Program, and where they will pay for a certain number of years of your medical school, plus give you a stipend. And afterwards, you owe them the same number of years in terms of service once you've become a physician. It was a great opportunity if I could meet the qualifications of the scholarship. And it also allowed me a chance to serve, which I was very grateful for. I always wanted the chance to say that I did it, even if it wasn't going to be a career decision.
Could you have been deployed overseas somewhere? Were you deployed overseas?
I volunteered. I volunteered to be deployed, but I was not. There was actually a waiting list of volunteers who wanted to go overseas from the ENT standpoint. And during the time I volunteered, they didn't need me. The waiting list was 18 months long. And so they said, no, you just stay home and do what you do in Nebraska. In the Air Force, when you have obstructive sleep apnea, that actually prevents you from being deployed worldwide, which is a big black flag on your record. If you can't be deployed to theater, you're essentially not useful to the Air Force in terms of being able to help your unit, if your unit gets deployed, things like that. So it's something that every Air Force person, every military person tries to avoid, is getting this black flag that says you're not deployable. If their unit got deployed, they got left at home. And that was a morale issue for a lot of soldiers. So with obstructive sleep apnea, if the best treatment available is CPAP, no doubt, better than any surgery I can do. However, you can't use CPAP when you're deployed because they can't guarantee you're going to go to an area where they have electricity. What happened then is we had to search for ways to try to improve the chances of defeating sleep apnea so that they wouldn't have a requirement for CPAP anymore. And that's where that whole process came out, where I helped, I wouldn't say develop, but helped promote and improve upon surgeries that were just coming out at the time to make sleep apnea surgery more effective. Sinus surgery is typically a 2-week grounding period until they'll be allowed to go back up in the sky. There's new sinus surgery that became available while I was in the Air Force. In fact, I was the first surgeon in the Air Force to do it, called balloon sinuplasty, where we can return pilots to the air within 3 days. When I received my Meritorious Service Award, they actually mentioned the faster return to the cockpit for the pilots in giving me my ribbon when I was discharged. It's a question every ENT gets asked, and that's why I smile, because the answer is almost always the same. 2 reasons. Best anatomy in the human body. It's the most complex, most interesting, And number two, we have the neatest tools and gadgets and gizmos in our offices. We have scopes that have computer chips in the tip of them, so I can get a magnified view by putting a telescope in somebody's nose, their ear, their throat, and get HD quality, up close, magnified views that then I can record and show the patient what's going on.
Yeah, we just got to look at boogers and gross stuff in people's heads.
That's true, but I'll tell you what. When you train as an ENT, your first year is training in general surgery. And my chairman said, look, if you don't want to go into ENT, I'll be happy to keep you in general surgery. And I told him, I said, I'm much more comfortable dealing with the holes up here than the holes anywhere else. So, as I was looking, there was a recruiter from this hospital who said, hey, we're considering bringing on an ENT. Would you mind looking at me? I came down here by myself. And I was so blown away by McKinney that when I got home, I had hanging in the kitchen t-shirts for my wife and my 2 kids that had the Texas flag and the word home written across it. I said, this is the place, this is where I want to be. And so it was once I got here, I fell in love with it immediately. I knew this is where it was. Well, I'll tell you, it's even worse when I work with one of my colleagues who's an anesthesiologist whose name is Slaughter.
Oh, geez.
So you get Slaughter and Thrasher together. It's pretty intimidating then.
If you think you have a story to tell, send me an email. But I have to tell you up front, it better be good.